Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed. It was said that in the wilds of ancient Greece ran numerous supernatural creatures and nature spirits. Some of these creatures had bridged the gap between the world of mankind and that of the animal kingdom. Among the most famous, and oftentimes among the most dangerous, were those who haunted the slopes of Mount Pelion in Thessaly, the Centaurs. A centaur is a human from the waist up, but with the body of a horse in place of their legs. In one story, they are described as the descendants of Ixion, king of the Lapiths, and Nephele, a cloud made in the image of Hera, while in a different myth, they were all born from the union of Centaurus with the Magnesian mares. Whatever their origin, centaurs were often portrayed as being incredibly powerful, possessing great strength and speed to match or even surpass the fastest of horses. They are also said to be dangerously skilled combatants, fighting with fist and hoof, branch and stone, and some depictions go as far as having them as unrivaled archers. In addition to prowess as feral warriors, they are depicted as having a deep connection to the natural world, possessing intimate understanding that no human, and even few gods, could possess. Though they had great intelligence, and were capable of reason and conversation in human tongues, the centaurs were depicted as wild and savage. They sustained themselves on wild game and vegetation eaten raw, and passed the time brawling with one another, with hand and hoof alike. They were also notorious for harassing travelers, even assaulting or killing them, carrying off women, and stealing food and wine from caravans. In many Greek myths, centaurs often played an antagonistic role, being powerful enough to be a physical threat, yet intelligent enough to be a cunning foe, though they tend to act more as drunken fools who do not care who they may hurt, rather than cold and calculated villains. In the tale of Centauromachy, Perithous, Ixion's son and king of the Lapiths, sought to make peace with the neighboring centaurs, and invited a clutch of them to his wedding to the maiden Hippodamia. Though the centaurs had maintained surprising composure in the beginning, they became drunk on wine, and soon their wild tendencies took control. Led by the centaur named Eurydion, they ransacked the ceremony, assaulting guests and even attempted to abduct the bride, and they would have succeeded if not for one guest among the crowd, the hero Theseus. Theseus and Perithous rallied the wedding guests and the royal guard into subduing and defeating the wine-mad centaurs. Another hero who frequently encountered centaurs, both friendly and not so friendly, was Hercules, better known today as Hercules. Hercules befriended a centaur named Pholus, who was kind and gentle, unlike most of his brethren. One winter's night, while the two had dinner in Pholus's cave, Hercules opened a jug of wine. The smell of the wine attracted nearby centaurs, and it drove them into a frenzy, leading to a battle between the hero and the wanting centaurs. Though Hercules succeeded in driving off the centaurs with his bow, Pholus was killed in the skirmish, much to the hero's sorrow. On another occasion, Hercules and his wife Deianira were walking when they came to a vast river, guarded by a centaur named Nessus. Nessus offered to ferry the lady across the river, and he attempted to abduct Deianira. As the lustful centaur raced off with Deianira in his arms, Hercules shot him with an arrow dipped in the venom of the Hydra. In his dying words, Nessus tricked Deianira by telling her to collect some of his blood, now poisoned by the arrow's venom, and to use it as a love potion should Hercules' love ever wane. The act would eventually lead to the death of Hercules. But not all centaurs were barbaric, lustful, and foolish in nature. There was one above all who was kind, virtuous, noble, and incredibly wise. Chiron, the lord of Mount Pelion. Chiron was born from the union of the titan Kronos and the nymph Philyra, when the former seduced the latter in the form of a horse. Ashamed and disgusted by her centaur offspring, Philyra abandoned Chiron in the wilds of Thessaly, where he was found and mentored by the gods Apollo and Artemis. From them, Chiron was tutored in the arts of healing, medicine, philosophy, song, hunting, archery, combat, and prophecy. He was highly respected by his own kind, by human kings and warriors, and even by the gods themselves. Chiron would go on to become a tutor and surrogate father to many figures of myth. Some of his most notable disciples include Asclepius, who would go on to become the Greek god of medicine, Jason, who would lead the Argonauts on their quest for the Golden Fleece, and Achilles, the Greek champion of the Trojan War, and said to be the finest warrior in all of history. Though Chiron was effectively immortal as a result of his parentage, Chiron's end came when he accidentally pricked his finger while he was examining one of Hercules' poisoned arrows. The arrow's magical poison coursed through the centaur's blood, leaving him frothing in agony. No medicinal remedy could stop the pain, and his immortality only prolonged the suffering. Though Chiron could not save himself, and Hercules could not help his dear friend, Zeus took pity on the wise centaur, and he stripped him of his immortality, allowing Chiron to swiftly pass away. As life left Chiron's body, Zeus cast his image among the stars, where he is seen today as the constellation Sagittarius, a centaur, forever pulling a bow and arrow, forever aimed at the venom-bearing Scorpio. Centaurs have lived on as regular features of modern fantasy stories, such as Disney's Fantasia, Harry Potter, Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia. Interestingly enough, the majority, though not the entirety of these modern incarnations of centaurs, depict them as infallibly noble towards those who hold their loyalty, as beautiful beyond words, and as fearless warriors. No doubt these stories take influence from the figures of Chiron and Pholus, who were likewise noble and wise, as opposed to the barbarous and savage ones who made up the majority of their race. This may be because there are many who enjoy the idea of a teacher and protector of supernatural origins, a warrior whose strength was matched by the power of his heart. The ancient Greeks held similar belief, yet they also believed that those who dwelled within nature, and who straddled the worlds of animal and man without belonging to one or the other, were inherently dangerous. After all, you can never truly tame what is meant to be wild.